Welcome to Faith on Tap, a podcast where we go out into the wilds of local breweries and talk to you about, thoughts and various topics are important to all of us. And we have Liz here. Say hi.
Hello.
And our pastor Dennis, which, let me try this one. Last week I gave you 2. I'm going to try to give you 2 again. We have either the pastor of prayer or, going a little bit different direction here, the pastor of pints.
Well, it depends what church I'm preaching at on Sunday morning. But, it wouldn't be horrible to be known as the pastor of prayer.
Pastor of prayer. Gotcha. All right. I'll be sure to tell the congregation what to call you from now on. So,
PPP.
So our question that we'll be asking people tonight, it's kind of a classic question that everyone's been asked at some point in their life. What is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self? When we thought of this question, I guess it was last night when we came up with this, I started thinking, are we going to get anything original? I'm a little scared that everyone's going to be kind of saying the same thing. So I looked on, are there questions that I guess psychiatrists would ask what the leading top 5 answers would be? And sure enough, there is.
This should be interesting.
I need a buzzer.
But the thing is, the responses are all what you think they would be. So let's see. So I have
Let's delve.
I have 6 of them, and I'm sure some of them will be kind of related to the other. But so what is the top piece of advice that you would ask your younger self? And we'll start with Dennis this time. What do you think the most frequent response someone would say?
I'm going to go with, and this has no reflection on me, don't marry that person.
Well, that's a little more specific than I'm looking for.
Don't get married.
I think Paul said that, but well, I'm going to ant you.
All right. I got an ant.
Because that would have been one of my guesses that people said.
Nope.
So I will go with have children younger.
Ooh.
Again, a good one, but not on the top 6.
All right. Well, we gotta come around again.
Think a lot more basic than that.
Basic. Your choice of work in life, your choice of profession. Don't do that.
Don't do that profession.
Don't do that profession.
As that was coming out, I realized that's probably not a good one.
Again, I think it would be more general than that.
Even more general than don't do that job.
Top piece of advice that you would tell your younger self.
All right, I'm going to say follow your heart.
That's kind of where we're going with it. Let's see.
I'm closer than you were.
And I'll say right? That would be true to yourself.
Be true to yourself.
I'm giving you credit for that.
All right, let me have a chance.
We're not done.
Be true to yourself is in the top 6. So I think
as a pastor, someone who talks to people and their problems on a daily basis, I'm sure you probably have so many thoughts in your mind, you don't know which one to say at this point.
It's true. My best advice is stop it.
That's not on the top 6.
It's not on the top. So what would I give? Something to do with money, the saving of, the spending of, the financial aspect of life.
And I would say no.
Wow.
And one last one to you, Liz, and then I'll tell you what.
Okay.
The thing is, you guys are so spiritual. You're so far removed from secular society that you can't even grasp these concepts. That's why
Don't
it's been so
shave
difficult.
your armpits.
Oh, boy. I'm okay.
I'm not going to comment on that.
I'm going to say, okay, so what was the last one I said? Did I say follow your dreams?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I gave you credit for be true to yourself.
Okay. I'm going to say, don't worry, the dead air will be cut out.
It's a good thing.
Wow, these are just terrible, but lame advice.
They're not all lame. To be honest with you, they're not lame. They're just cliche almost. Cliche doesn't mean it's lame.
A little bit. This isn't quite the buzzer contest that
Right.
we've had before.
Don't smoke menthol. Go with just straight up.
Yeah. Okay, actually, I'll run off that.
Don't smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, no. Gosh, this is terrible because this is not easy.
I thought you were running off something.
I was going to say something about being healthy.
Which I'll give you credit for. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, okay. Ding, 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 ding.
All right.
I don't even know why didn't even that come to mind?
I don't know.
Take better care of yourself.
Embrace failure. Again, it's not bad advice.
It's true, but
you hear it so often. Although young people, we know people that are young that do not take failure well.
no. This is
And
true.
If
It's
you
very
could-
true.
Yeah.
They're
So-
coddled.
And we're just old and we've had so much failure. We're just used to it.
How many bikes did we fall off of?
Right?
Today. Yeah. Know your worth. Recognizing one's values and not settling for less is frequently mentioned.
And all of these can be like Christianized.
Yeah,
All
they
right.
can be Christianized and they also be
Here's
paganized.
one I think
Yeah.
you'll all agree with that you should have said, but you didn't.
It was in my head, but Dennis didn't have it.
Focus on relationships.
No,
I was going to say family.
that was never in my head.
Focus on family. That
Yeah, focus on family.
I don't even like people.
and
Thanks, Pastor.
and the last one that I'm surprised made the list is pursue education.
I was going to say something about
Many
college,
advise
but that
staying in
sounded
school and continuing education. It's funny because as I'm a public school teacher, or was recently retired from that and moving on to a different profession, but I've been telling people not to pursue higher education.
I've heard you say that on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The college is a waste of money for most people unless you're going into science or medical field. So don't pursue education. All right. So we heard what the common folk would say, but here we have the spiritual elite that we're going to ask.
spiritual elite.
So Dennis, what would you say about your younger self? What would you say to yourself?
You know, I thought about this because it's one of our questions. And
That's called research.
right? And I tried not to be the cliche Christian. I really did. And I mean, I could give myself a lot of great advice, do's and don'ts throughout my entire life. But it really does land on don't let go of Jesus. I was brought up, I went to Catholic schools all my life, from grades, second grade right on through to high school. And while I was in high school, I walked away from the things of God. Didn't want anything to do with church, God, religion, and none of that. And if I were to give my younger self any word of advice, it would be don't do that. Hold on to Jesus. Because I think letting go caused a lot of unnecessary crap. Can you say that on a podcast?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Okay. So a lot of unnecessary crap that just didn't need to take place through bad choices, wrong choices, misdirected choices. And I'm not saying Jesus my life would have been all mountaintops and Skittles, but it would have been drastically different.
Well, I'm thinking about your younger life, and I figured if your older self went back in time, you'd probably have been high, and you probably wouldn't have listened to yourself.
Or maybe seeing an older version of myself, and I'm like, wow, this stuff is really good, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess you would assume that you would believe that you are the older self version or the younger self version of the older you. That makes sense. All right, Liz.
Okay, I've thought about this quite a bit. And
Because it's our question.
well, even just in general, it's like dealing with kids and what do I say to them to try to have a positive
Okay,
impact on them? Yeah,
comments.
after talking to lots of kids and trying to have like a meaningful impact on their lives, it's like what would have meant something to me, and I would probably say don't let other people define who you are, and I think
That's
that
good.
happened a lot. When I was a kid, it's like someone would say, you're really not good at this stuff. Just stick to your art. Okay, I guess I'll just do that, Or, just people putting parameters around me. And I'm like, oh, okay, it sounds like that's what I should do now. It's like, I think I might be in a better spot.
Do you think
mentally?
that's more prevalent with young girls
Oh, 100%.
than boys?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I probably, but young boys, I would say I was definitely affected. I just remember I was home on a Friday evening with my parents once, and my neighbor came to my door, and she was my age, and embarrassment that I had that she's going to know that I'm not out partying. I'm home. I felt so embarrassed that I didn't know what to do. So it's like I was knowing who I am now, thinking that I would care. And that's the thing. It's like our younger selves were so stupid. Well, speaking for myself, I was so freaking stupid. I would not be able to understand what my older self would say, but you'd hope that your older self would
I'd
speak
probably
to you.
make me cry.
That's not very nice.
Well, no, sometimes that's when you've
Right.
you've hit something important.
Yeah. And for me, reflecting on this, and as a teacher, I've given tons of advice on the whole failure thing, because I told students, like, when I wrote to colleges and I got my rejections, I kept them. When I get rejected from my jobs, I kept them. And I say I wanted that to be a motivation for me to be better. It just harkened back on how bad it was, etc. And I know this is very cliche, but man, if so many kids that we know that are so afraid of screwing up or doing something wrong, they won't even try. They won't do anything. And they become stagnant. And that's so sad. But it takes a level of maturity to really get past that. And so I understand what is a difficulty. But more to me, when I was thinking about this, I think the biggest problem, and this is not just my younger 5-year-old self, this goes up to my teens and maybe even in my 20s, I would like to be able to go back and say, basically, that you don't have to understand everything to accept God and what he has to offer.
Was that one of your big hurdles early on?
Absolutely. As a science person, I base decisions on information. I read information and facts. And so I look at it, if I couldn't understand it fully, then I could not accept it fully. I remember taking in college a Bible as literature course, and it was taught by an atheist. I just remember there's a division of the things that I accepted as a scientist and the things I accepted as a Christian, and there's a great divide. And that troubled me so much because I don't like that incongruency in my life.
Can you give us one of those early examples of what kind of threw you off?
Well, this might be somewhat controversial, but...
Controversial?
Well, in terms of a lot of Christians, but as a scientist, there's overwhelming proof that the age of the earth is in the billions of years. And in my opinion, to believe that it's not, God would have to be deceitful. And from our last week's podcast, God doesn't lie. So in other words, if we look at the stars distance away now and where they're moving, if we took the literal age, where would they be in 5,000 years? They'd still be way far apart. So young earth creationists would say, well, yeah, but God put that there to deceive us or to give the illusion of that. And it's like, things like that just really bothered me. And I just assumed, well, all Christians think that. So I'll just put that
So you're talking about foundational things in the faith and in science world.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. And so I would say, well, I guess I'm going to go through my whole life with my Christian self and my science self, and they're never going to meet. And it wasn't until I read a book from Hugh Ross, who is an astrophysicist, who is an amazing person, and he said, oh no, that obviously the God of the Bible is an old earth, and he went over the terms, the old Hebrew words, et cetera, and I'm able to think that, so I can have continuity with my science and my Christian self. And that was a major breakthrough. And I know people to this day, we know people to this day that are so hung up on minutia in Christianity that they're not going full forward in their faith because it's a stumbling block to them. And so it wasn't that long ago, and it's a process where I'm slowly giving, like the Trinity. I am not going to fully understand that. And I am good with that. I am good with that because I believe the scripture is very clear that the Trinity exists. Therefore, I am going to accept it. And I think a lot of it probably is pride, because
So younger Mark would not have accepted that?
I wouldn't accept that as an answer. I'd say there has to be an answer. Gotcha. There has to be something that I can understand that will prove that the Trinity exists. And I guess, like most other sins, it boils down to pride. Say, if I am smart enough to understand it, and that would be my younger self. And now all the failure is, okay, yeah, and I'm not that smart. So God's a lot smarter than me, and I believe his extra-dimensional being was able to explain things that I would never be able to comprehend, although it'll be fun in heaven trying to learn.
Amen.
So we're minutes away from asking people about this question. Do you think that they're going to fall into the camps of more of a cliche type expression, or do you think we'll get some depth out of these people?
I think it depends on how long they have to. I mean, if we get the question out there, I think, as always, with the gambit of who you're going to ask, I think we can get from the very cliche, superficial, to something very specific that happened to a person in their life. It was either make this decision or this one, and they either made the wrong one or...
I'm thinking that even if they give what we might consider a cliche initial response, it's how deep they dig from that point.
Sure.
That's where the rubber meets the road. I think that might be where it gets interesting.
And we found out from our last few weeks that guys seem more apprehensive to go deep on these questions. That they either don't want to answer at all, or they'll give shallow responses. I hope we see a change. I don't know. You're female, right, Liz?
So far.
Yeah. So do you think generally guys, even, I'm not talking about kids, I'm talking about adults, are generally shallower in thought?
No, not shallower. They guard their thoughts more cautiously.
I like that. Not so much shallow, but just a more of a guarding.
Yeah, it's like women are like, here's all the things. It's like,
Well, yeah.
and even me, and I'm not like super effusive, but you know.
Or, no, you're not.
No.
Very much not.
And
Well, let's see what they have to say. We're here this week once again at Mulligan's Bar and Grill in Bristol, Connecticut. And I do want to thank Mel, the owner, who actually gave a nice interview last week to us. He made it possible for us to be here. And I was really rooting for this place because my favorite food, which is also Liz's favorite food. So what did we eat today, Liz?
oh my gosh, they have the best boneless wings here. They have about, 10 different flavors, and each one is just a party.
And we had what flavor?
Sweet Asian chili and mango habanero.
And you're incredible.
Habanero, was it hot?
No.
No, you don't even taste the heat.
It's just
that's,
yummy.
That's not doable.
Dennis, what did you have?
What did I have? I had the turkey melt with apple smoked bacon
Very
and
nice.
sweet tater fries.
Yum.
And you enjoyed them.
It was very good,
Excellent.
actually. And I didn't eat it without a fork and my hand.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
I think this
caveman,
might be a time of growth for you, Dennis. So you identified as a male, and you ate with two hands. Yes. You might revert, but as for now. So our question tonight, we're going to be asking people is, what advice would you give to your younger self? So let's see what the people have to say. We have someone who really likes his wings. He's back again this week, and he's ready to answer the question. And I prompted him a little bit, so he had a little bit of time to contemplate. If you were to go back in time and give some advice to your younger self, what would it be?
See, I thought about this actually last weekend while I was on my tractor.
Oh, really?
Yes, because sometimes when I'm on my tractor, I have these thoughts.
Yeah.
You're alone. You're out there and you're reflecting.
Preach
right?
it. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I do the same
So
thing.
I thought about it, and actually the answer is nothing. And the reason is because I think everything happened for a reason. You know, like in my youth, I went really fast through school because I wanted to work. And then when I went to work, I worked a lot, you know, and I went through many things, but all the things that I lived through got me here. And I'm here for a reason. And there's nothing I would change. I mean, I went back and forth. I mean, I could have told myself be a dentist instead, or, you know, or go to another school or move to another country. But I think that everything kind of fell in place because it was meant to be.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, obviously, God had a plan for you, and no matter what you did, you ended up where you are today because of that, and you're content where you are in your life.
Definitely.
And you've made mistakes and, and et cetera, but those made you who you are today.
100%. 100%. I mean, like, if you look at my life trajectory, I was born in South America, and my chances of me even standing here or even speaking English would have been next to nil, right? And things happened that got me here, and things happened that put me in this chair today.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't change
in
anything.
that light, can you say you really have no regrets?
No regrets. No. Even the
That's
mistakes
awesome.
I made. I mean, like they happened and they taught me lessons. When I'm here, I mean, I had near life death experiences, and I'm here. So
Awesome.
How do you think most people would, do you think they'd have similar views as you, or do you think people regret too much?
I think people regret too much. I think a lot of people like living in the past and they want to try to, I don't know, make excuses or try to fix things that happen, but people can't accept things that happen in life. I mean, life is life. Right now I can get on my car, make a right turn, and there comes a bus. That's it. Nothing I could do. So I think a lot of people live in fear, and I just learn to accept things, as they come.
Do you think that has anything to do with the trajectory your life has taken? Because not a lot of people would have that same point of view.
I think it's because now I'm 40, and I mean, I've been fortunate to see a lot. I mean, I've seen good, I've seen evil, I've heard evil, I've heard good, I've seen good deeds, I've seen bad deeds. And then the older you get, I think you have a better understanding of just life in general. And I think younger people, maybe because they're still young, maybe they're anxious because they're in their 20s and they want to be like, oh, I should have gone to this school, or I should have studied this, or maybe if my parents were like that or the school was like this, my life would be different. I think it's easier to blame others because when you're young, I think maybe you have this invisibility, and then as the older you get, you feel the mortality, and then you feel that you need to accept certain things.
So I know we haven't talked a lot about it with you, but it seems like faith in God plays a guiding role in decisions, past, present.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And how has that, do you think that relationship with God has protected you from the regrets, from the, I wish I would have done it different instead of my mistakes brought me to this place today?
100%. I feel like I've been even in situations in my job where things were really bad and I had to make decisions against my own bosses, almost like going against just for ethics because it's the right thing to do. And those were the moments where you say, God, am I doing the right thing? Guide me, show me a sign. Like I would call my wife, be like, hey, I may get fired because I'm gonna call in the government, and she'd be like, go ahead, you have your principles, do it. And
Awesome.
We talked about this question yesterday, and we all gave our responses, but I like your response better than mine. It was really good. I like that.
That's
Thank you.
phenomenal.
yeah, thank you.
That was awesome.
Thank you, Dan.
We are here with who?
Sue.
And
Hi, Sue.
I gave a question to you a little while ago. I'll repeat it. Hopefully you had time to think. The question was, if you were to go back in time to give your younger self some advice, what would it be?
Most likely it would be not to let other people define who you are.
Liz agreed with
I
that.
said the exact same.
And why did that make a big impression in your life?
Got it. Because as I grew older, I realized things that people have said to me, intimidating, insulting, was not true. And what happens when you try to follow what other people want you to be, you cease following what God wants you to be. And that's one of the things in old age come through.
So how long have you felt this way? Was there an age or a time of your life where you felt this was definitely
Defining moment.
I would say it came probably closer to 25. And that's, when I have my kids, married, home, and I realized who I was. Of course, I also came to a point where I realized that Jesus really had a meaning in my life, and to get a personal relationship with Jesus at that point. And when you do that, then he begins to open up, he begins to heal. He begins to heal the hurts, and as he heals the hurts, you start to forgive. And then you become who God wants you slowly but surely. I mean, not till I die will I become fully who God wants me to be. But every day I stress, I move toward that. One of the things that I tried very much to do is not insult my kids, show respect to my kids, have them respect each other, not to use sarcasm as a way to insult them, and it could be funny because it could be back and forth that way, but it hurts. And so with this way, I think if I can teach them to respect each other, then I think they'll respect others. And hopefully I'm looking at their families now, and they are that. And so they're being better parents than what I was. And of course, that's how it goes. We want to become better parents than what our parents were. And I'm not saying our parents were abusive. I'm not at all. they did what they needed to do to raise, but they were raised during a depression. They were raised during hard times. So they would say things they didn't realize hurt. And so as kids, being 7 of us, we would also say hurtful things to each other. And I knew how much it hurt me. And there's one thing, a bone can heal, but words that stick in the heart can last for a long time.
So let me ask you a question. Knowing your personality and who you are, if your older self came to your younger self, would you believe that's you, or how would you handle it, do you think? How would your younger self handle it?
I'd have to respect the person who was telling me. And if I thought that person came with wisdom and knowledge and reassurance, then I would. Because even in 2nd grade, I remember a teacher who encouraged me. 2nd grade, that made me feel better about myself. So...
Oh, excellent. Great answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Sue.
So, first of all, we are here with who?
Brian.
We'll edit your last name
Yes.
out because of witness protection problems.
Yes. Extradition laws, things like that.
I understand.
So we've been asking the question, right? If you were to go back in time and talk to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
I think when I was younger, I didn't take life seriously, or at least the end result of life didn't mean a lot to me. I just kind of got caught up in society and the world and just kind of played the game. Kind of knew the ultimate end and what I had to do was there, but it was way off in the future and I didn't worry about it. I would have pulled that in a lot earlier than I did.
What effects do you think that had in your life?
I think decisions you make, the decisions you make just on a daily basis. Instead of being more secular, you'd be probably more thinking of how is it you should be living your life, with the Lord, or, every decision you make, and how you should always, anything that you do, you should always think of how the Lord would view you and how you act and do and make the decisions.
And would you have listened to your younger self?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, but you got to remember, you're a different person than when you're younger, and it all sounds like, that's for someone else, not for me. So was I mature enough back then? Probably not. But, so if I even gave myself that advice, I'm not sure I'd listen to it.
So sitting here now at the age you're at,
Yep.
what age would you like to intervene in the past? Was it like 13? Was it 20?
I was actually probably pretty good in my younger ages. I think probably in 20s.
20s?
Yeah. Now, would I listen to myself? I don't know. The 20s is a pretty dynamic time in your life. And
How do you think your life would be different if you were to take your advice?
I wouldn't have a lot of baggage in my background. I'd have less baggage. I think I'd be more, okay, we're in your senior years now, and my goal is to get into heaven. I got a lot of work to do to get there. I would have less work to do that if I listened to myself back in the 20s.
Thank you. Awesome.
That was a pretty boring interview, huh?
No, actually, it was spot on.
Is that what your younger self would have said?
My younger self would have said, give me a beer.
We are here with who?
Mary.
Thank you, Mary. And we asked this question before, so I'll ask you again. Hopefully you have some time to think about it. If you were to go back in time, give your younger self some advice, what would it be?
I wouldn't,
And why would that be?
because I think I did a great job.
Cool.
So,
wow.
okay.
That's a pretty straightforward
Yeah.
answer.
And so you don't, if you had regrets, you don't have regrets?
No, never. I don't believe in regret
Good. Why is that?
because you can't change anything.
That's fair.
It's pretty solid.
So basically, you're happy with you have no regrets. You're living the happiest you can be right now?
Yes.
So what are you saying to your younger self then? Just a high five and walk away?
I'd say you're doing great.
That's awesome.
Enjoy your food,
Enjoy your food.
of course.
Well, thank you. Anything else to add, or are you happy with that?
Do you have any siblings?
I have a twin brother.
You do?
Yes.
And if your older self would have to tell your younger sibling something, what would it be?
You're doing a great job.
That's so
He did a
sweet.
great job too.
Yeah, I think he
That's
did.
so sweet.
And are you close to your brother?
Yes.
And see him on a regular basis?
Very rarely.
Very rarely.
Well, he lives across the country.
Oh, okay. So you're not originally from Connecticut, or he moved?
What's all these other questions about?
No one's going to use them to track you.
I don't know.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
So we finished here at Mulligan's Bar and Grill.
Yay.
Another great night. And stay tuned for our next show.
Yeah, that's going to be a good
Thank
one.
you. Tune in next episode when you'll hear Dennis say,
Well, we would need new legislation for flying people.